Hi, welcome everyone to another session of Human Manual. There are manuals for every machine in this world except the most powerful machine, and that is the human machine. The most beautiful machine is our human machine. Let's take a little peek into that machine today. Let's take a peek and see how the human machine works. Today, we're going to talk about changing yourself rather than trying to change the world. I'm sure all of us, one of the worst diseases we have, I can call it a disease because all of us think we are perfect and think people around us, our circumstances, our surroundings, they're not perfect. We all want the whole world to adapt our way of life, our way of thinking. We want the world to be the way we have imagined the world to be. Little do we realize that each one of us, the way nature has made us, is none of us are alike. There's absolutely no two people that are alike. Forget about people, there's nothing alike between two individuals. Each and everything about us is different. You will not find two matching human beings. Even you have seen, even if you're twins. I happen to have grandchildren, they're born twins. And both are boys. They are both so completely apart. They're both so completely different. I mean, they are very young right now. They just celebrated their first birthday. And I can already see they have their own views. They have their own thoughts. Each one of us have no two behaviors that are alike. This is the beauty about all of us. We are all completely different. Knowing that, we still want the entire world to adapt to us. Now just remember, can you imagine we being one individual and there are over 7 billion of us around on this Mother Earth. How could you expect the whole world to be the way you imagine it to be, to follow and to behave the way you behave? By not realizing, by not accepting the fact the world is not going to be the way we want it to be, we suffer major problems. We go through tremendous amount of pain trying to change the world. Almost everything that passes through our life, we may not be happy with what we see. You may not be happy with the street that you cross on. You may not be happy with your workplace. You may not be happy at your school. You may not be happy because your children, your parents, your cousins, they're not behaving the way you expect them to be. And what do we try to do? We go into a whole judgmental mode when we see these people. What do? We're always complaining. And we're always saying, oh, look at the way the guy is sitting. I mean, come on, doesn't he know he's in a train? I mean, doesn't he realize he's in the middle of people? I mean, I don't like his behavior. I don't like the way he's sitting. I mean, can't he put his feet down? I mean, doesn't he realize, you look at people the way they dress. You may not like some of the outfits that people wear. You may not like some of the food habits. You may not like the way some person is chewing his food. You may not like the way some people is combing his hair. There are hundreds and thousands of examples of discomfort that we feel when people behave certain way. We always are passing judgments. We are always making comments. We are always causing ourselves pain by making those judgments. Little did we know that displeasure can be converted into pleasure. It's like a light switch, right? It's like, if you don't want a light in a room, what do? You just switch off the light, right? Or if the room is dark, you want the room to be lit, you just switch on the light. Similarly, we wish that we did not have to go through all this pain and all this pleasure, all this discomfort and all these experiences, negative experiences that we go through in our life, don't we wish that we never had that? Well, guess what? The simplest thing you can do is as easy as switching on and off. Instead of trying to change the world, all we need to do is change ourselves. Change the way we think. If you dislike the way a person is behaving, instead of expecting the person to behave a certain way, all we have to do is just accepting and switching off your own self, looking at things differently, looking and accepting the world for what it is, the way it is one of the best things you can do in your life. We all look for pleasure. We all look for happiness. We try to stay away from pain. And what brings us pain? It is the thought process, our mind. Our mind and our thoughts are our biggest source of our pain. All we need to do is switch off and change the mode of our thinking. All we need to do is go into another track. Let me give you a few examples. Based upon our culture, we all have certain eating habits. Some of us are vegetarians, some of us are meat lovers, some of us are vegans. We all have different eating habits. Some of us eat with our hands, some of us eat with forks, some of us eat with forks and knives. And we all make judgments and comments about the other person. If you're a vegetarian, and if you're sitting with someone on your table who's eating meat, what do? You are passing judgments. Why is he eating the meat? Doesn't he realize how much cruelty animals have to suffer? Doesn't he feel the pain? If somebody was to kill him and eat him up, how would he feel, it's so stupid. Why can't people realize being a vegetarian is the right way? It's the right thing to do in this world. And you can go into overdrive. Different people can go into how strongly they feel, and they can drive themselves mad, And similarly, the other person can say, he could be eating meat all his life. Now, he was not born to eat. He just grew up in a circumstance where it was just natural. All his family members, all his neighbors, the country, the religion, everyone felt eating meat was perfectly healthy, perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, he can argue and say, if it wasn't for the protein that I get from a meat, I wouldn't be so healthy. Or if it wasn't for all the animals, if you don't eat these animals, there will be an abundance of that. Or there's not enough food in this world to feed this whole world. And thank God for people who eat these animals. So we can both have our own arguments. We can both have our own reasoning. So rather than driving ourselves into an overdrive, all we need to do is switch off and say, I'm not going to try to change that person. I'm not going to try to change him. I'm just going to accept. It's fine. If he is eating meat, if I cannot convince him, if he is convinced with what he's doing, if he has made a decision to do what he's doing in his life, maybe he's got his own views. Give that other person, the benefit of the doubt. Maybe, whatever his argumentative or way he was brought up, let him lead his own life. Let him learn to do what he thinks is right. Similarly, we have our own strong beliefs about the religion we follow. Everyone would love everyone to be their own religion. If you're a Christian and if you believe in Jesus Christ and you feel Jesus is the only God, Christianity is the only right religion to follow. The same thing with Muslims. They may think, Islam is the best religion, and the Hindus and the Sikhs. Every one of us would love for the other person to follow, because you all feel that the way you have read about the world, the way you have formed images and some of the things that you have come to accept in this world is the way the world should be. What we try to do is we try to convince the other person. We want to try to change the other person to your religion. Similarly, it's about the dress codes. Some of us, if in the East, if you are in India, people wear saris, they don't like to, they dress up a certain way. And in the West, they have their own dress codes. Some of the girls may wear short skirts, or men may wear shorts. In India, we wear dhotis, lungis. People laugh, at our women because of saris. Now, that is, we all have different views about how the other person should dress. We need to learn to accept everyone has a right to dress the way they feel is right. Everyone dresses based upon where they were brought up, based upon what their parents have taught, based upon what their friends, their neighbors, their surroundings. And we all need to give benefit of the doubt and accept what they're doing may be right for them, may not be right for you. So what may not be right for you may be right for them. So let's just accept to people the way they are, for what their beliefs are, for what their behaviors are. We all need to learn to live with each other. Just because the other person has different beliefs, behaves differently, acts differently, you start to find faults. Nowadays, the biggest thing is finding faults, gossiping. What is the biggest hobby of ladies? What is the biggest hobby of men? It's a very sad situation that almost all of us derive pleasure of talking ill about somebody else. We think by talking negatively about the other person, you elevate yourself. Little do we realize that whenever we are gossiping, whenever you're pointing a finger at some person, remember, you may point one finger at that person, but there are 4 fingers that will be pointing at you. We may think we are gossiping, and because we may be sitting with a group of friends, and we may gossip about a common friend, we may talk ill about that person. Little do we realize that the person who's listening to you may be just giving you a dumb ear. And within himself, he's saying, listen, today you're talking about that person. Tomorrow, when he's not around, you're going to be talking about him. We all seem to get a thrill from finding faults with none others than your own friends. Your friend cares less about that person whom he does not know. So what do we end up doing? We always end up talking about someone common whom we both know. We always love to talk negatively about the other person, especially among women. Finding faults seems to be the biggest hobby. Even the media, what happens? Every time, if there's anything negative about a celebrity, they go and they basically find that to be the biggest breaking news, If they find celebrity has broken up with his wife, that becomes the breaking news these days. That seems to be a bigger headline than some of the other important headlines. Very rarely do you hear media talking good about people. Those who spend time in looking for faults in others usually have no time and spend no time to correct themselves. Change yourself. Then you've done your job of trying to change the world. I'm going to give you my own examples. I learned talking about switching off, trying to change myself. At one point, I felt I would like to have millions of viewers. When I started to make this video, I wanted to have millions of viewers. And then little did I realize that it's not as easy. It's not like, you make a video and you put it out there and there'll be millions of people viewing your video. Do you know how many videos are there on YouTube? There are billions and billions and billions of videos on YouTube. Almost every day, almost every minute, there are millions of minutes of YouTube video that is uploaded. Initially I thought, by just putting on a video, I will have many hits. Then I educated myself. Then I realized it's not going to be easy getting those millions of views because people have so many other things to do in this world. People have millions of options, right? There's so much things you can do with your time. The very fact that you spend the time and watch me today, that itself is, a blessing. I switch my thoughts to accept and say, listen, if I get a few thousand views, I would be very content, I'd be very happy. I'll give you another example. So I remember reading about a couple of close friends of mine who are in the Forbes list, whether they are in India or in America. I have friends in both the places of friends who actually have made it to the Forbes 500 or Fortune 500 list. And when you come across a person who's in the Forbes list, you always think, as equally smart. Why am I not as rich? Why am I not on that Forbes list? I want to make as much wealth as the other person. If he can do, and what does that something like that do? You basically drive yourself mad. You basically putting your own self in that pain. This is very common. We all have got people who are wealthier than us and people who are less fortunate than us. This seems to be a very common trait among all of us. We are always comparing ourselves. We are always comparing ourselves and saying, why aren't we as wealthy as our friend ABC? We never seem to compare ourselves and say, why aren't we are so fortunate that we are not like our friends D, E, and F. So we always are comparing ourselves, especially our wealth, to the people who are richer than us. And instead of trying to change the world and saying, why is the world unjust to you? Instead of saying, why me? Why did I have to be in this position where that I have so many friends that I know, they have a lot more money. Why can't God give me that money? Why has He given it to them? All you need to do, instead of trying to change the world and say why the world is not based upon your thinking, is consider yourself lucky and say how fortunate I am. Just switch off. Just switch within yourself and say, compare yourself and see the best sides and the good things that happen to you in this world. Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing themselves. Yesterday, I was clever. I only wanted to change the world. Today, I'm wiser, much wiser than I was yesterday. All I want to do is change myself. The beauty about this world is the differences among all of us. Even with all our differences, even with every one of us being totally different with our thoughts, with our beliefs, with our eating habits, if we can all learn to live and be as one, that's where the beauty of this world is. The cultural diversity in our beliefs, in our thought process, the more diverse we are, and this is what brings us together. If we can find a common bond and if we can just change ourselves and to accept the world is going to be different. There are going to be people who are not going to be exactly like us. Our diversity is our strength. Our diversity is our thing that is binding us together. I hope I've given you some fodder to think. I hope you go back with some thoughts of seeing which areas of your life you need to change. And it's so easy. I hope learn to switch off and switch on. When I talk to you about it with so much passion, what is it doing? It's basically driving the point that I'm trying to tell you into my own mind. I am basically, every time I talk to you with compassion, I am forming that belief within myself. I am improving my life. So let us together improve our lives. After seeing this video, I want you to go back and think and see how you can change yourself. Which are the areas of your life that needs changing? Hopefully, we all find areas of our life where we need to change to make our lives better. I look forward to seeing you again in another one of our Human Manual sessions, where I'll bring you another interesting subject, something hopefully that will improve your life further, will improve all our lives further. God bless you. Thank you. Just as you go to the gym to improve your physical health, the idea of making these videos is to better the health of your mind. Our endeavor is to bring you better quality videos. So please, give us your suggestion. When you wish others well, nature wishes you well. So please share this video. Subscribe to get notified about new videos.